Do you believe that a mistake was made here, though, to have this conversation, to add a reporter, and to have it on an unsupported, classified group setting?
Caitlin, as I've just told you, I've just answered the question. I wasn't a part of it. And, I'm not going to speculate more than what the president's already talked about and those who've been involved have talked about. But we'd love to talk about the veterans.
Yeah, and I do have questions about the veterans, but given what we saw with the group chat and how this was used, you are a member of the cabinet. You obviously know these other members, several of them who were in there. Is this typical for the cabinet to have conversations over Signal? Is this something that you use?
Well, Caitlin, soon you undoubtedly do not want to talk about the VA. I have a question as VA Secretary. As Cabinet, I want to ask you, because I've been curious about this, because my job is to take care of veterans, and I would like to know why CNN is hostile to veterans, especially one in Florida, where you just had a $5 million defamation suit taking offense at a veteran who was trying to help people. In fact, one of your employees actually said, we're going to nail him. I have a question for you, Caitlin. Is that employee still employed? Are you really concerned about veterans? So if we don't want to talk about veterans now, you want to talk about everything else, I'd like to hear from CNN as the Veteran Cabinet Secretary why CNN seems to have a problem with veterans.
Well, Mr. Secretary, respectfully, my question was about whether or not you as a member of the cabinet use this. And respectfully, I'm conducting the investigation. And I do have a lot of questions for you on Veterans Affairs, but I don't think it would be unwarranted to ask
what you want to do is talk about the subject that I've already answered. And if you want to continue this like this, that's fine. But there are VA employees who are working very hard. There are veterans who get their care from the VA and they get their benefits from the VA. And it does me no good to speculate on something that I've already asked and answered. So I've asked and answered your question. Why don't you answer mine? Are you still, is this person still employed who said they were going to nail one of my veterans, who you had to do a $5 million award from a jury because of defamation, and then you settled the case? Answer my question.
Respectfully, sir, I'm asking the questions here, and I have no involvement in referencing there. But if you don't want to answer the question about whether or not...
Smug, pompous, arrogant. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us today. I'm sorry for putting you through that 2 minutes of Caitlin Collins, CNN's one of their lowest rated shows. Folks, just to put it in perspective on how bad CNN has fallen off, Fox News dominates the top 13 spots in all of cable news. Their highest rated show bringing in about 4.7 million viewers a night, followed by about 4.2 million, and then down to threes into the 3 millions. One of their lowest rated shows still doing 2 million people, and that's a show at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Caitlin Collins is barely pulling in 500,000 people to watch her each and every night. This is a woman making millions of dollars who has an audience less than this podcast and the podcast of many other friends of mine. It's quite embarrassing that a multi-billion-dollar corporation, you can't garner an audience of 500,000 people. Now, it's not just that she's a Marxist Dem and people are tuning out, because MSNBC, Rachel Maddow, or Mark Cuban, as I like to call her, is still putting up 2 million people. She found 2 million Marxists to tune into her show each and every night. Lawrence O'Donnell's still doing over 1 million viewers. Ari Melber still doing over 1 million viewers. Chris Hayes, the penguin-looking dude, still doing over 1 million viewers. Even Jen Psaki doing about 1 million viewers. Joy Reid, who was fired, was doing about 1 million viewers. So Morning Joe doing about 700,000. It's because the people don't like her. Nobody can resonate with her. She's so out of touch with reality, and she's got this chip on her shoulder that she's got to prove who she is, and you've got to know who she is, and you've got to love and respect her. People don't care. You folks tune into me each and every day, each and every night, and I'm sure I piss you off at times, and you probably turn me off. The next day you come back and say, I hope he's better today. This woman does the same mistake every single night. She pisses off an audience. People tune into news, they want to enjoy it. And we try to make this as fun and practical and as entertaining as possible while still giving you the news. And that's why you folks, I believe, tune in. You tune in to listen to my commentary. You tuned into Lou Dobbs for some people 30, 40 years to listen to his commentary because you respect our opinions. You want to hear what we have to say. But these people, you tune into Caitlin Collins and they badger you. This is how you have to think. This is what you have to believe in. The people don't want to hear that. We hear that enough in our everyday lives from the government telling us what we have to do. Pay your taxes on this day. Pay your property taxes this day. This amount of money will be taken out of your paycheck this week and next week and the week following and the week following. We deal with it enough on a daily basis, being told what to do by our bosses. We don't need to tune in to Caitlin Collins each and every night for her to be telling us what we have to do. So if CNN wants to pay me a lot of money, I'll gladly bring this show over there and go be an editor-in-chief over there and teach them how to not piss off an audience. I did it executive producing for Lou for years. It's very easy not to do. Don't piss off the audience. It was the number one rule Lou always taught me. Do not piss off your audience because they never forget. Apparently, Caitlin Collins has done just that. Speaking of editor-in-chief, I asked our good friend John Solomon to join us today. John Solomon has been working on the Crossfire Hurricane documents. Those are the Russiagate documents, preface to opening that fraud investigation into President Trump for Russiagate. He's been working on it for 4+ years, 5 years almost. And we're finally now getting the documents. President Trump declassifying them once again after declassifying them in 2021. Solomon got those documents, but then were taken back quickly than just hours of being given those documents. So President Trump re-declassifying those documents. Now, John Solomon joins us today to discuss. John, thanks so much for joining us back here on the Great America Show. I truly appreciate it. I want to start with a little nostalgia, if we can, before we get into the top story, in my opinion, of the week.
Good evening, everybody. Dramatic new developments to report this evening. First, President Trump is declassifying top secret documents, all related to Obamagate. That is the coordinated and years-long spying against a presidential candidate and ultimately the President of the United States and his administration, that of Donald J. Trump. We'll have the shocking details. Just the News editor-in-chief, John Solomon, will join us on this important story here this evening.
Talk about
brings back some great memory. That was how much we miss Lou.
Every day. That was January 14th, John, 2021.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about the Crossfire Hurricane documents. Now, I want to go a little bit further. We've got one more clip before we get into it that I'll roll for you. It's a short one. Take a listen to Lou's response. Now, John, this is almost over 4 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're finally getting these documents again. But take a listen.
Unnecessary. This was an attempt to overthrow the president. This was an attempt to align the entire FBI with Russian intelligence objectives and missions. And this should result not in a discussion about, the unseemliness of a sordidly, politically corrupt officialdom of the FBI under President Obama. It should be about a sinister cabal operating in the intelligence agencies, the FBI, and the Justice Department to overthrow a president. And we have not been talking about the wrong things, but our leadership in Washington has been talking about the wrong things and feeding us pablum when in point of fact, they are refusing to bring these people to justice. And I say refusing. This is outrageous that we're having this discussion in 2020. Yeah. It's just outrageous. We're talking about 4 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's taken a very long time. And part of the reason is the FBI and the intelligence community are very good at obfuscating and hiding the truth, whether they redact things, claim they're classified, falsified documents, which they did in this case. They have done a good.
John, I apologize for making you watch a video of yourself. I know how awkward that can be at times. But like I said, this is 4 years ago to the day. Crossfire Hurricane documents now somehow being re-declassified after they were already declassified, given to you January 14th, 2021. How do we find ourselves, John, in this situation?
Well, yeah. So let me give you the scenario, because I swore this out in a court case, because I've been fighting for 4 years in court, spending money to try to get these documents the way President Trump intended them to be, which was to be fully available to the American public. President Trump he announced to me, or told me on the 14th, that he would be declassifying them. We broke that story, went on Lou. That was that first clip. Then late on the night of the 19th, January 19th, the day before President Trump left office in 2021, the White House called me and said that they would give me an embargoed set of the documents and that I could make them public as soon as the president left office, like at 12:01 p.m., I think it was. And so a group of young staffers on my team stayed through the night, went to go pick up the documents, and they were going to scan them in. And when the embargo left, to do it. About an hour after that, the White House called back, and when you agree to embargo, you're stuck to the terms of the embargo, and asked for the documents to be returned because there was a problem. They'd be getting back in the morning. We didn't get them back in the morning. Now, I was very fortunate. Separate of the White House, I had a source in law enforcement who picked the top 5 or 10 things that were being declassified, and they sent them to me in a separate envelope. And I was able that night on Lou and on Sean and the next morning to break some of the early documents that are probably the most important. I think of the things the president declassified, I probably got the most important ones. The Christopher Steele interview with the FBI a year later, where he acknowledged all the things we now know he acknowledged. Right. The work of Stefan Halper. And in fact, Stefan Halper's documents that I made public has become part of litigation because someone claims to have been smeared by him, and the case is pretty well made in these documents. So we got a lot of the good stuff. There is one thing that I got a copy of that night that was not satisfying to me, and that is the 4th and final FISA warrant. So the one that extended it one more time into the summer of 2017. There are still significant redactions, even though the president ordered that document to be unredacted. And I believe in the redacted sections of that FISA warrant, there may be some additional details of methods and ways that they tried to spy on the president and his team while he was in office or while he was during the transition. And we also think there may be some more duplicity in that document. It is a travesty that the FBI was allowed to continue to keep that document so redacted. And if you look at the president's new order right now, the one he just did again to try to force these out a second time, keeping in mind the FBI and the Justice Department did not comply with his order. They did not make these documents public, nor would they give them to me in the 4 years of the Biden presidency, nor have they given to me. They could have gone into my lawsuit in the first 60 days and said, we're done fighting John Solomon. President said, have them, and they haven't. But the president's order, even now, says that he will agree to whatever the FBI redactions, the FBI believes are necessary redactions. I think that is a travesty because I think they're going to be trying to hide some stuff. Now, it's a different FBI. Kash Patel knows what's in that FISA warrant, and I think it's possible that maybe we'll get some better stuff. I'm certainly making the case to all who are in a position to influence this that 4th FISA is the single most important document yet to be released. Get rid of the redactions. Let us know what's behind those black marks, and we'll have a better sense for history of what the FBI did to weaponize itself against President Trump and his entire administration.
2 questions for you, John, to follow up on that. I love Kash Patel. I know him as a human being. You know him as a human being. A great guy. Over the last 4 years, John, he came on this show. I'm sure he came on your show talking about dismantling the FBI, turning it into a museum, this, and that. FISA 702's got to go. John, then we hear him this week saying FISA 702 is an integral part to everything we do. Meanwhile, every national security person I've spoken to, John, on the show has told me we can live with or without, ostensibly, FISA 702 because the NSA is still collecting all this data that they say they're not collecting anyway. I spoke to Russ Tice about it yesterday. It says they're still collecting it. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But my question is to you, why would Donald Trump, knowing what he knows and what he went through, John, the hell they put him through, the Russiagate, the peeing on a hotel room, everything, this whole nonsense that could have ruined his marriage, his life, his presidential aspirations, everything. Why would he ever agree to any redactions?
Because I think once you sit in the seat of responsibility and you understand the things that you must make sure can still happen for the American people, the next terror attack, the next big spy, the next big thing, you sometimes are willing to bend to the people who are in the intelligence establishment because they tell you, we wouldn't have got this guy or that guy or this guy. And I think that is what ends up happening. Here's what I would say. If Section 702 is so important, then comply with the United States Constitution. If you're going to spy on an American, you go to a court. All right, the data is sitting there. Go to a court and subpoena it and get a judicial review process. That would protect all of us, and it would keep that urgent need that the president sometimes is told about. Many presidents have been told about it there. It is a simple constitutional protection. In fact, it is jaw-dropping that Republican Congresses and Republican presidents haven't had the courage to do what the founding fathers intended, which is, if you want to spy on an American, get a darn warrant.
Yeah. But John, we literally have no evidence to prove. We have evidence to the contrary that 702 actually works. How many terrorist attacks have we seen on the American soil, John, since 702 has been in place? We saw, I'll name two, San Bernardino off the top of my head,
Sure.
in America,
Right.
the Boston Marathon bomb
Sure.
in America. How many of these school shooters that we knew before they were coming out, that we knew what was going on? So what really does the 702 do? I mean, to me, it makes zero sense.
Yeah, listen, the man who oversaw that program for many years inside the FBI, Bassem Youssef, an FBI whistleblower, one of the most respected FBI whistleblowers in history, goes back to the early 2000s, said that it really wasn't that significant a tool. Now, one of the things it can do is it can help you daisy chain and daisy link people together to figure out who is in somebody's circle, which the FBI claims it doesn't do that, right? Because daisy chaining would be a violation of the Constitution, except he says they do it. So you're right. There are no real significant cases recently where the FBI has been able to prove to Congress or to a court that Section 702 has actually thwarted a terror attack. It has allowed certain espionage activities to go on. And those activities could easily go on without a blank check to look at someone's phone data if you just meet the threshold of a warrant and go to a court and do it. Now, people say, what good's a warrant when the FISA warrants against the president were so corrupt? And that is a great point. Warrants are only as good as the people who fill them out, and only as good as the people who review them. Judge Boasberg's a person who reviewed FISA warrants, not the Russia collusion FISA warrants. He came in afterwards, but we know some of the warrants he ended up approving had significant flaws. So if you really want to fix this from a civil liberties perspective, you must change the culture of the FBI and the people who do it. You must change the culture of the judges who do it. And then you must impose what the founding fathers, if they were alive today, almost certainly would impose. You ain't looking at an American's phone data unless you can meet the threshold for a warrant. And it's an easy fix, but no one in Washington has had the courage since 9/11 to fix it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Folks, we're talking with John Solomon, editor-in-chief of Just the News. He hosts a great show on Real America's Voice, Just the News, No Noise. You can catch him each and every night there as well. When we come back, John, I want to take up the D.C. courts because it seems they're so rife with corruption and trouble, the FISA courts. And I want to go a little bit further into Kash Patel and try to see if you know what's going on in his mind right now, because I certainly don't. We're coming right back with John Solomon, folks. Stay with us.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. You know, I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
We're back. We're talking with John Solomon of Just the News, editor-in-chief. You can catch him each and every night. Just the News, No Noise on Real America's Voice. with his wonderful co-host. John, I want to continue this conversation about Kash Patel. Kash is not a man who's a neophyte to FISA 702.
Oh, that's right.
He's not a man who's a neophyte to the government on how it operates. He's not a neophyte to anything deep state. He knows better than anybody.
Yep.
You had mentioned, Donald Trump about allowing the redactions in Crossfire Hurricane because he's sitting in the big chair now. I understand that. But Kash Patel knows the stuff that he's saying now is just simply not true. He promised us he was going to gut the FBI, and I hate that I'm having to come out here and say this, and I'm sure you are too, that we have to sit here and look at this 2 months later and say we were promised change in the three-letter agencies, we were promised change in the intel communities. 2 months in, we're showing no signs of change whatsoever. Your thoughts?
I've covered the FBI for about 36 years. I would say it is.
Don't age yourself.
Yeah, no, I'm getting up there. I will say that the FBI the last few weeks has been more assertively focused on solving crimes, which is a good thing because for most of the last decade, it's more assertively been involved in politics where it didn't belong. There are DEI initiatives that have been abruptly ended. There are significant reorganizations that aren't being announced. And I think the truth of the matter is the jury will be out a year from now when we can really see visibly on the outside what we can't see on the inside now. It's a big deal when in my hometown this overnight, when I was asleep, they rolled up the MS-13 leader sitting about a mile from my house, which is kind of disturbing to think about it, that the big honcho of the MS-13 was in my neighborhood, for Christ's sakes. But I do think there has been an initial focus of the FBI back to the singles, doubles, and hitting that the FBI should be, which is focus on crimes and get the hell out of politics. Yeah. The second piece of this is who is going to be in the leadership of the FBI. The biggest weakness that Kash Patel possesses right now is that he has very few of his appointees around him, the people he wants to surround himself. Why? Because the White House personnel process has been painfully and quite frankly, potentially dangerously slow for the FBI. There's so many, there's so many checks going on that there's simply not time to get the FBI director the people around him. So he's got acting people, career people. I'm sure they're good people. Hopefully they're patriots, but he doesn't have his team in place. And it's hard to get a lot of big initiatives done until the people in the foxhole are the people you trust. I think that is on the White House to fix. The third part of it is that the sort of changes that I think Kash Patel, I never for a second believe that I think I took Kash Patel, I'm shutting down the building and selling it or turning it into a museum. It was hyperbole to say, where I am. He was never going to do that. We got to have headquarters. But I do believe the mindset of what he meant by that statement, which is I am going to end the abuses of American citizens, that is going to be measured a year from now. We'll know whether he was full of caca or whether he delivered on it. And I think from the early, and I have tremendous FBI sources. First off, the FBI agents who thought that Kash Patel was, some political stooge have quickly found out he's a real cop. He knows and cares about copism. And if you're going to go into the trenches and be a cop, you're going to do well with him. Yeah. He, secondly, was, and a lot of these people, this hasn't been known, but it was Kash Patel that found the hidden documents of Epstein. Yeah. He personally said, I don't believe these are only documents. This can't be all we have. And he went back and got them. So he's starting to comply with Congress and creating a culture that you can't hide things from the American people. Yeah. A year from now, we'll know whether he's had a profound effect or whether the institution grabbed hold of him and has captured him. Right now, there are some early encouraging signs, particularly in the results of focusing on crime and not politics and in complying with Congress. The FISA reform, listen, the single most important people who deserve the blame for failure of FISA reform, Jim Jordan, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, and the courts for not, when Judge Boasberg is your FISA court chief for a while, you kind of know why things don't get fixed. Yeah. Congress could have fixed this last year. There were great ideas. And by the way, Democrats were willing to team up with Andy Biggs. Yeah. Somehow, Jordan and his team and Mike Johnson got rolled. And of course, who knows what the Senate would have done. Yeah. I do think now, there is zero excuse. If they don't do FISA reform in the next year, they have all sold the American people a bill of bogus goods.
Now, the FISA reform, is that a yearly thing, John, the renewal? Yearly?
It's 5 years, but the renewal is 5 years. There's nothing that prevents Congress from saying, all right, we're going to still change it now. You don't have to wait 5 years. That's just an excuse. If you think there's civil liberties abuses going on, and they are well chronicled in the reports of the Inspector General of the intelligence community and the FISA court, change it now. Don't wait 5 years. Yeah. Do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what's stopping them. The fact that Lou Dobbs is no longer alive to hang down the damn door.
He was the Jiminy Cricket of consciousness for our liberties, wasn't he? He was on all of our shoulders reminding us.
Within a month of, I don't know if I've told this story at air before, but within a month of Mike Johnson getting in, he started pissing Lou off. And Lou started going out there and of course, expressing his dismay. Yeah. And someone very high up from Mike Johnson's office emailed me and said, hey, can we talk? I said, yeah, let me know what you want to talk about on an email. Of course, they wanted to take it to a cell phone call, which I took. And I was pretty much asked to tell Lou to please relent on Speaker Johnson. When I told Lou that, I'm sure you could imagine how he reacted.
He doubled down.
He absolutely doubled down. He may have told him to go to hell.
That's what an independent journalist looks like, unlike so many of the drones that are in journalism today. Listen, I think at the end of the day, as much as, and I understand everyone's frustration, it is pretty remarkable that we're, 64 or 65 days into the Trump presidency. He has already issued more executive orders than any president in history during that time frame. He blew away FDR's New Deal. We are inching towards potential peace in Europe. Israel now has the ability to finish off Hamas for good. The economy is starting to come back. Eggs are cheaper. Gas is going down. Our enemies are beginning to fear us a little bit more. China will certainly respect us more in the near future. There's been a lot accomplished. That said, we have a perfect list of what the president and his team and the members of Congress told us, and it's our job in the roles that you have and I have to hold them accountable to make sure that every check mark is next to every promise they made. And the most important moment of the Trump presidency, I think, was at about 3:00 in the morning on the night of election, when Donald Trump's opening line of his acceptance speech when he won the election that night was, my motto will be promises made, promises kept. And I think he is acutely aware that that is a very important ethos for everyone in his team. And we'll all be able to judge him in the year, but there is a lot of more progress made in this presidency than any presidency that I've been alive for.
Yeah, and it's not incumbent upon President Trump, John, to have to micromanage these people.
That's right.
And I take a little bit more issue with Pam Bondi, who's on Fox News, like auditioning for her next job, than I do with Kash Patel. And that raid you were talking about this morning, you see her out there in front of the cameras. I mean, you would have never seen an attorney general go out. And I feel like we're being fed with smoke and mirrors, John. Where's the investigations going under James Comey? What about into Christopher Wray? How about into the 2020 election? How about into these people who tried to overthrow our country? How about the January 6th committee members who lied and lied and lied, who are walking the streets with pardons right now? How about Joe Biden signing pardons with AutoPen? I mean, there's so much stuff that I feel like we're being fed smoke and mirrors by Pam Bondi going out in front of her camera in a dress. I mean, and same thing with like Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem's out there taking videos in front of migrant centers wearing a $90,000 Rolex. I mean, to me, it seems like smoke and mirrors. Do you disagree?
Listen, compared to Joe Biden, who
of course
was not engaged at all, didn't probably even know what was going on under his pen or his watch, compared to Merrick Garland, who only came out to announce political weaponization moments in his presidency. I'd rather see the Attorney General and the FBI Director present at a raid that takes a really bad guy off who might terrorize and kill another American tomorrow if we don't capture him, than to have Merrick Garland come out and say, I'm weaponizing my department against my boss's likely Republican rival for the 2024 election. I think these are cultural changes. And I think, people can say, is this crude politics? I don't think that Kash Patel has any plan to run for office ever. So if he's out there, it's probably because he wants the men and women to say, this is what FBI works like, not the stuff you were doing for the last 10 years. Yeah. I don't know if Pam Bondi has a political ambition beyond this or not. It's a hell of a job to have as Attorney General. But if the message of her being there is, this is what I stand for and this is what I'm willing to waste my time on, then it's a good thing, because the cultural assimilation in these departments is far from complete. In fact, I think it's barely started. I think the vast majority of DOJ people and FBI people chafe at the notion that the Trump administration has captured all these bad guys so quickly. They're on the side of the judges who want to trip up President Trump. But over time, when the boss keeps showing up and keeps making a point that this is what we do, and the next time you do something that doesn't look like this, I'll be the one there for your arrest. I think that will be a very important part of changing the culture. And I think that some of this is internal management, not external PR, even though it does feel like, I admit, it does feel like external PR. But from what I know, there is a desire to refocus Homeland Justice and FBI on their mission. And part of that is by letting people in the department see this is what the boss thinks is the right thing to do. And I think that's part of what's going on. It's internal messaging more than external. Now, let's talk about all the crimes committed from 2015 forward that we know. I have said many times, and I'll stick to it because my reporting validates this, they're just not going to go back and punish people. They'll do the things the president's done. Let's strip their security clearances and make them poor. Let's shame them every day. Let's keep that law firm from making the next 20 clients because they're not going to be in the game on things. They'll do those things. I think, and again, I still believe the law should be applied evenly. And if there are statute of limitations still open, they ought to prosecute everybody. But I do think that what we learned in the Durham investigation is that in the era of Trump, you can bring clear and obvious and convincing and compelling evidence of crimes, and jurors in the District of Columbia, in New York City, and other places are not going to bring convictions. And I think the danger, if you go through that process, is the people, when they get acquitted, now claim that what they did was right. And I think that until we figure out this jury system, until we figure out this Trump derangement syndrome of the Justice Department, by the way, and of the justice system, I think President Trump is very cognizant. He'd rather punish them other ways that don't require a fake vindication, and then bring the cases in the place they are. I think somewhere down the road, not that far down the road, somebody from that era of earlier abuses will get prosecuted in the state of Texas or the state of Tennessee, and it just one or two cases. But the president said he's looking forward. He took down the rearview mirror of his car of presidency, and I think he's just looking forward now. And he's got a big list of things he needs to solve for the American people. The things he's dealing with are epically huge, epically huge.
Yeah, the only problem is, John, he let Hillary Clinton off the hook in 2016.
Sure did.
He got him indicted like 150 times, facing 700 years in jail.
His graciousness was returned by hatred and weaponization. I still think he's going to, my impression of it from my own reporting is he'll be tough, but he's still going to be the gracious guy. And he knows that American people will not win if he brings Hillary Clinton an indictment. People will win when the price of eggs goes down and when the border's secure and when our daughters can go out and jog again and not be killed by some gang member. Yeah. I think that is what drives him. And God bless him, he's a bottom line guy, and he has a bottom line. And that bottom line is driven by what he thinks the American people want, not what he personally would love to achieve to all the people who harmed him and shamed him for the last 10 years.
It's only one difference, John. He doesn't have to run for re-election again. I want to
Very liberating. It's liberating, isn't it? Yeah. Can be.
I want to take one more quick break here. I know you're short on time. We'll come back on a short segment here and take up these D.C. circuit courts who are just rife with absolute total corruption. We're coming right back. John Solomon, editor-in-chief, Just the News. Stay with us.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Folks, we're back with the great John Solomon of Just the News, editor-in-chief. Just the News, no noise, each and every night, real America's voice. John, the Federalist has a new piece out this week. Very interesting, if you ask me. A third of all D.C. district judges were not born in the United States. Now, these are the same people, the Boasbergs of the world, the Tanya Chutkins of the world, who are sitting here telling us that we cannot deport Tren de Agua criminals under the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. They're the ones telling us that we have to rehire people at USAID. We have to rehire anybody who was on probation. People not even born in this country as acting presidents of the United States. Make that make sense for me, please.
Listen, I have been able to. The first I heard it was just when you mentioned it. It is interesting to me. Judge Boasberg himself was definitely born in San Francisco, California. So he's a guy that has been an American all his life. I think the issue for him is not where he was born or who his parents were, but what his interpretation of the Constitution is. Because he has decided to rule now. In fairness, the D.C. Appeals Court panel has affirmed him that what the Supreme Court ruled in the 1940s and what the Congress passed in the 1790s doesn't matter to them. They're going to interpret it the way they want it to be interpreted. I suspect that Boasberg's day is coming in the Supreme Court, though we could be wrong. Who knows? Maybe Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts will flip to the other side again. But if stare decisis exists and the Supreme Court is going to abide by its original rulings, the current rulings would say that what the president did was here, and I think was accurate. And Judge Boasberg is ruling against what President Trump did in violation of what the Supreme Court has previously ruled and what the intent of Congress was. But there's other things that could happen. I'm always. It's sort of fun how Washington always limits itself down to the hardest one option. Congress could pass a law tomorrow and get to the president tomorrow saying, you can do this, you've got no problem. For the next 5 years, you have the license to take any Tren de Agua, here's the process you have to follow. And they could do it tomorrow. And they could rifle shot a law, but they don't do it. They sit there and say, oh, God, these damn judges. They could tomorrow declare that some of these judges are impeachable. You don't have to impeach them because you're not going to get 67 votes in the Senate. But the Constitution doesn't say that. The Constitution says you get to be a judge for life as long as you're in good standing. Congress could just simply rule that these men are not in good standing and maybe fire them or defund them based on their conduct and their actions. They have allowed jurists for 2 decades now to go on junkets. Of all the people that should be above special interest influence. I mean, we kind of expect our politicians and members of Congress to be, influenced by the money they raise, but judges are supposed to be in that unimpeachable, unassailable thing. You've got Judge Boasberg and 9 other Democratic judges, 3 Republican judges going to an all expense paid trip in Idaho, where all of the sponsors, the group's CEO and the faculty are all overtly anti-Trump, spewing anti-Trump rhetoric, and on the very issue that Judge Boasberg is actually ruling on, immigration. Is that the sort of, and Congress could fix this tomorrow. But when I asked Jim Jordan yesterday, he's like, well, we'll look at it. Why look at it? Just fix it. So there are many ways to fix this system. It isn't just on, oh my God, we die at the Supreme Court or at the appellate court. Congress has been complicitous through omission for so long. It is, and when I came to Congress, there were giants still in Congress. There were people like Bob Dole and George Mitchell. And even if you didn't like Tip O'Neill, he knew his responsibility was to work with Ronald Reagan and get some done. We do not have many giants in Congress right now. And Congress shirks the extraordinary power that the Constitution, the founders, and the American people give it time and time again. It is the greatest graveyard of excuse making I've ever seen in any part of Washington. And that's saying something. Yeah,
it's John. It's the same 3 or 4 judges who are constantly on this D.C. circuit. Now, there's 15 of them. Is that right?
Yeah.
The same 3 or 4 of them. It's Boasberg, Chutkin, and Mehit Hatta, or whatever his name is, or the other one. We have a lawsuit now for the Signal Gate with Mike Waltz. Who's the judge in charge? James Boasberg. I mean, so what can be done by Congress? Can they, per se, pack the courts? I mean, can they?
Could, after saying they didn't want that to happen to the Supreme Court, right?
At this point, though, John, I mean, it's like we're going to lose the presidency.
Well, remember that the inferior courts are not subject to the United States Supreme Court when it comes to policy and pronouncements. The Supreme Court is in charge of the lower courts for discipline, right. But Congress was given the power to, that you could tomorrow tell every federal judge in the land, and by the way, to Jim Jordan's credit, to Andy Biggs's credit, to a couple of other lawmakers, I'm going to draw blanks of their names out in California, and Senator Hawley, they're going to try to get this through Congress next week. Why should a single judge in a single blue area of a country be able to enjoin the whole rest of the country? You could take that power away tomorrow. And by the way, Jim Jordan has 3 bills coming to the floor. They've got one of them done. Josh Hawley's going to get it through the Senate. Congress could put handcuffs on these judges and say, you can stay in your job, but you're not enjoining the rest of the country with your political views. You can enjoin your district, and then you'll get overturned time and again by the Supreme Court, but you can make this happen. Or there have been more temporary restraining orders in the first 60 days of the Trump presidency than there were in the entire 4 years of Joe Biden and the last 2 years of Trump's first presidency. That tells you something. The judges have become political. Congress could fix that tomorrow. We don't have to wait for the Supreme Court. They could fix it tomorrow. It could be on the president's desk in 2 weeks if they just did their job.
Well, I mean, that's incumbent on Mike Johnson. John, I've been saying this since I took over the show in August. Mike Johnson should have a very short leash on him, a month or two. And if we realize he's not doing his job, he's got to go. It's now been 2 months. What has Congress actually done in the last 2 months?
Yeah.
What have they done?
Well, they got a temporary spending bill again. Oh, wait, they do that every 3 years.
Exactly.
Every 3 months. Listen, I think Mike Johnson will be judged by what that one big, beautiful bill is. If he can achieve the president's agenda, he'll be a speaker that has some longevity. If he fails at it, he can't make a deal with the Senate. I think there will be hell to pay, and there could be a mid-year change. I think the big bill will get a lot done. But you know what? Every day Congress misses an opportunity to fix things at the American, and they keep acting like they're powerless. It's the most impish group of people I've ever seen. There's some exceptions. Listen, look at the Marjorie Taylor Greene's hearing yesterday. Now that's a hearing. Let's expose what bias looks like. She showed it. But there's just not enough of them who take the bull by the horns like Bob Dole or George Mitchell or Tip O'Neill did a decade ago when they realized we're Congress. We can fix things. Our Congress is we're Congress, and we'll just sit by and complain and bitch about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. John, before we wrap up here, I want to get your take on the whole, we haven't got a chance to talk about it, but just a little quick brief thing on the Signal Gate, different reporting about how it happened, who's responsible for it. I'm kind of a little upset, and I stressed that in yesterday's show, that Mike Waltz was pointing the finger at everybody else but himself. Yep. What are you being told about how this happened?
My reporting is pretty clear, which is, and by the way, we surfaced the memo in December before Joe Biden left the presidency. The Homeland Security Department told all national security officials to start using Signal regularly. I have that memo. I've put it up. Everybody can see it. It was a bad idea. It was going on for 4 years. That was just the latest warning to go do it. We're the United States government. We have cell phones that can give you a cell phone that's secured up to the top secret level on the phone call. Why can't we have a chat system to do it? What happened is, if you've ever used Signal, is your whole Rolodex is in there, and you might be looking for John Solomon, but you misclick by one and you put Jim Smith on there, right? That's what happened. Now, who's to blame? The national security community for being this stupid to realize that for 20 years, while we've all gotten used to chatting, they didn't create an encrypted chat for people on the most thing. And so we use a commercial thing, which, by the way, if there's no human error, I'm sure it's pretty well encrypted. But is that really the risk we want to take if there's not a chance? You could create an encryption tool tomorrow that allowed everybody to chat, and you'd only have the people who are authorized at the classified level they should be. And this would never have happened. It's clearly human error. I don't think there's anything more conspiratorial than that. The conspiracy is, once again, bureaucracy created an unnecessary security risk for us. And by the way, this risk has been present since we knew Hillary Clinton started her private email, since we learned that Joe Biden had the pseudonyms in sending sensitive things to him. Yeah. We could have fixed this 100 times. Congress could have mandated. The national security establishment could have fixed it. For God's sake, will someone just fix it? I bet you Elon Musk will have a technology fix in a couple of weeks. And that'll be the first good idea to address this in 10 years of bitching and moaning about it.
Yeah, that's true. Any idea, before we wrap up here, who added Mr. Goldberg to the group chat? Was it Mike Waltz himself?
I think it was someone around him that had access to his phone and had permission to expand it. I think it's purely a human accident. I've seen some conspiracy theorists. I think, and listen, there have been times where I accidentally put someone on Signal Chat like, I caught it because I always look at it, but it's easy to mistype. There would have been there was no value in bringing on a Goldberg. There was none. There not even in your wildest imagination. It was just a bad call.
Yeah,
a mistake. I think the president, we take him at his word. It's a mistake, and we're going to learn from it.
I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to say, "Can you message me on Signal?" I said, "What the hell?" Tony Bobolinsky. Yep. I'd call him. He'd call me on Signal. I said, "What the hell? How do I use this thing?" John,
all right, brother. I got to roll.
Appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody, for being with us tonight. Before we go, I want to end on a light note. As we're going through some video of finding those old clips of the great Lou Dobbs, we stumbled upon one. This nostalgia just came back, and the memories of my mentor and the man I miss, and we all miss so very much. Being a human, take a listen.
I want to know, what do you do to relax? You appear very serious.
Well, I'm very serious, and as you can tell, Larry, I'm pretty passionate about what we're talking about because I really care.
But what do you do on Sunday afternoon? I'll watch football, and I'll go work on the farm, or I'll just walk around and kind of stare off into space every once in a while. But that's what I do. I spend time with my family. I love doing that.
Boy, do I miss him so much. Never did I ever hear Lou tell a lie, but there was some sort of lie in that, and it was the fact of relaxing. The man never relaxed. The man worked 24/7. I'd be on vacation, and he'd call me, and he'd pretend like he butt dialed me because he wanted to work, and he'd say, "Oh, did I call you by accident?" "Yeah." "All right, Lou, I'll talk to you next week." "Well, what are you doing?" And we'd wind up talking for hours, and I wish I could have those moments back. Him and I would speak for hours each and every day, 7 days a week. FaceTime, on the phone, out on the farm. And, I wish I could have those moments back, as I truly do miss them. And I treasured them then, and I treasure them now that he's gone. But not so much truth in that, Lou. You never relaxed. But watching football with the family, definitely true. As for relaxing, not true. You worked 24/7, and you worked until the day you died. And I know you're up there listening. You're probably very angry at me, but you and I both know there was no relaxing when it came to the great Lou Dobbs. Folks, I hope you enjoyed today's episode with the great John Solomon and the little nostalgia of the great Lou Dobbs. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for the Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way continues. See you back here tomorrow, folks. Same time, same place. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. We'll see you tomorrow.